Good morning, beloved in Christ. Today I want to speak to every heart that has grown weary, to every soul that has carried burdens too heavy to bear, and to every spirit that has cried out for relief in the quiet of the night. I want you to know that God sees you. He knows your struggles, and He has been walking with you even when the road felt endless. Perhaps you have felt like giving up, like the storms around you would never end, and like every step forward was met with resistance. But today, I bring a message straight from heaven, a word of hope, a declaration of breakthrough, a promise that your season of struggle is coming to an end. Imagine for a moment a life where you wake up without the weight of relentless battles pressing down on your shoulders. Imagine a season where the obstacles that once seemed impossible to overcome begin to bow before God's power in your life. Imagine stepping into each day with peace in your heart, clarity in your mind, and faith that moves mountains. This is not a dream, this is the reality God is inviting you into. He is calling you into a season where His Spirit leads, where His grace surrounds, and where His promises come alive in your life. Today we will explore what it means to truly embrace the season God has prepared for you. We will uncover the keys to understanding His timing, the steps to release what no longer serves you, and the faith required to receive a life where victory is your portion. You will discover that struggle was never meant to be permanent, that every challenge has a purpose, and that the God who has brought you this far is already making a way where there seemed to be no way. I want you to prepare your heart to hear words that will not only inspire you, but transform your perspective, strengthen your faith, and ignite a new confidence in God's promises. By the end of our time together, you will not leave the same as you came. You will leave with the assurance that God is declaring over your life. No more struggle, only victory, only peace, only supernatural alignment with His plan. So take a deep breath, open your heart, and allow God to speak to you now. What He has for you is greater than what you have ever imagined, and today marks the beginning of your breakthrough. When God speaks the words "no more struggle," it is not a promise that life will suddenly become easy, or that every obstacle will instantly disappear, but an invitation to trust Him on a deeper level. Many believers misunderstand divine peace as the absence of problems, yet God often brings peace in the presence of them. When He declares the end of a struggle, He is shifting the weight from your shoulders to His own, calling you to rest in His sovereignty instead of striving in your own strength. This keynote teaches that God's word is not simply a statement, it is a summons to faith, a call to step out of fear, anxiety, and self-reliance, and move into a posture of surrender and confidence in His guidance. When God says no more struggle, He is not promising a life without pressure, but a life without unnecessary spiritual exhaustion. He knows how long you have been fighting on your own, wrestling with burdens you were never designed to carry alone. There are moments when He looks at His children and says, "This is the moment when you stop battling in your own power and begin trusting in mine." This word from God calls you out of the mindset that believes everything depends on your effort and draws you into the truth that victory depends on your obedience. God is not removing responsibility. He is removing the illusion that you must handle everything by yourself. When God invites you to stop struggling, He is inviting you to allow Him to be God. This keynote also reveals that struggle often persists because we cling to things that God has already asked us to release. Sometimes the fight continues, not because of the enemy's strength, but because of our refusal to let go. When God says no more struggle, He is asking you to lay down the weapons you picked up in fear, the habits you formed in survival mode, and the thought patterns that were shaped in seasons of pain. He is calling you to move from striving to trusting, from controlling to surrendering, from trying to figure everything out to resting in His plan. He wants to lead you by His Spirit instead of allowing your emotions or fears to lead you. His invitation is not to passivity, but to divine partnership where you work with Him instead of fighting against life on your own. This word from God is also a declaration that His timing has arrived. There are seasons in every believer's life when God allows struggle because struggle produces strength, humility, wisdom, and spiritual maturity. But there also comes a moment when heaven decides the lesson is complete, When God says no more struggle, it means the season that shaped you has finished its work. It means the tears you cried have watered a harvest. It means what once broke you now builds you. His word means he is stepping into the situation in a new way, turning the page and inviting you to step into a chapter where his grace becomes your primary source of strength. God's no more struggle is not the absence of challenges, but the promise of divine help. It means the winds may still blow, but they will not move you because God is anchoring you. It means battles may still come, but they will not defeat you because God is fighting for you. It means darkness may appear, but it cannot overwhelm you because his light is guiding you. He is calling you to step into a season where his presence carries the weight that once crushed you. This keynote invites you to trust God not because the path is easy, but because he is faithful, not because life is simple, but because his promises are sure, not because you understand everything, but because he never fails. Every season of struggle in a believer's life has a divine purpose, and this keynote reminds us that hardship is never random or wasted. God allows challenges not to punish but to prepare, not to destroy but to develop, not to break but to build. Every difficulty, every trial, and every prolonged moment of uncertainty is a tool in God's hands, shaping you for a greater destiny. Just as gold is purified by fire, your character, faith, and resilience are refined through adversity. The struggles you face are the soil in which God plants seeds of strength, humility, and spiritual insight, cultivating a life that can endure greater responsibilities and experience deeper blessings. When you walk through seasons of struggle, it is easy to feel forgotten or abandoned, but God is always present, molding you for what is to come. The challenges you face are not signs of divine rejection, but indicators of divine preparation. Each obstacle tests your faith, stretches your patience, and strengthens your spirit, equipping you for the future God has ordained. Struggle often reveals hidden weaknesses and areas in need of growth, giving God the opportunity to work in ways that you might not have allowed in comfort and ease. It is in these moments that your dependence on him deepens, your perspective shifts, and your spiritual vision expands beyond immediate circumstances. The process of preparation through struggle is also about timing. God does not rush the work of forming character because he knows that the foundation must be strong before the harvest arrives. What may feel like prolonged waiting or repeated setbacks is often a season designed to build endurance and resilience. By walking faithfully through trials, you learn lessons that cannot be taught in times of comfort. You discover the depth of God's faithfulness, the power of prayer, and the importance of perseverance. Each struggle carries a hidden instruction, and each difficulty contains a divine message that is shaping you into someone who can walk in victory when the season shifts. Struggle also cultivates empathy, wisdom, and humility. When you endure hardships, you develop a heart that can relate to others who suffer, and you gain insight that can only come through experience. God uses these seasons to teach you how to minister, encourage, and lead others with understanding. The character developed through struggle ensures that when blessings arrive, you are prepared to steward them wisely and with gratitude. The very battles that once seemed like setbacks become your testimony, a source of inspiration and hope for others, and a demonstration of God's transformative power. The principle behind this keynote is that preparation is hidden work. While the world sees struggle as failure, God sees it as training for greatness. Just as a builder does not skip steps, when constructing a strong foundation, God does not bypass the refining work necessary to prepare you for your next season. Every moment of persistence, every act of faith, every prayer offered in the midst of difficulty is contributing to a transformation that will soon manifest. The end of the struggle is often a reflection of what has been achieved internally, even before external circumstances change. Understanding this truth helps the believer reframe suffering as purposeful rather than pointless. Struggle is not punishment but preparation, not a burden to resent but a tool to embrace. It is an investment of spiritual growth, a divine shaping of your heart, mind, and soul. When God finally brings the season of struggle to a close, the victory is sweeter, the joy is deeper, and the impact of your life is far greater because it has been tempered by trials. Preparation through struggle ensures that you are not only ready to receive God's promises, but ready to walk in them with maturity, wisdom, and unwavering faith. Divine shifts often begin internally before they are seen externally, and this truth reminds every believer that God's work starts in the heart before it manifests in circumstances. Many Christians focus solely on changing situations or seeking visible breakthroughs, but God is more concerned with transformation that begins within. When He declares the end of struggle, He first renews your mind, restores your spirit, and aligns your heart with His will. The external change follows naturally because the internal condition has been corrected. Your thoughts, emotions, and faith are the fertile ground from which God produces visible breakthroughs, and understanding this principle allows believers to trust the unseen process even when the outcome is not yet clear. Internal transformation is necessary because the way you think determines the way you act, and the way you act shapes the results you experience. Struggle often persists because the heart is not fully aligned with God's purposes, or because old patterns of doubt, fear, and self-reliance continue to influence decisions. When God shifts a season, He begins by exposing areas that need healing, reshaping your desires, and cultivating a deeper awareness of His presence. He removes spiritual obstacles that may not be visible externally but have been quietly controlling your responses and limiting your potential. This internal work ensures that when external changes occur, you are equipped to walk in them faithfully and sustainably. God's approach also teaches patience and dependence. Transformation that begins internally requires believers to slow down and allow the Spirit to complete the work. Many expect instantaneous results, but God's timing and process are deliberate. While you may long for immediate relief from struggles, He is using this period to prepare you spiritually, emotionally, and mentally. The internal work often involves confronting uncomfortable truths, letting go of pride, and embracing humility, which equips you to handle blessings without fear, arrogance, or mismanagement. It is a sacred process that strengthens faith and deepens trust, allowing you to enter a new season with clarity, confidence, and spiritual maturity. Another important aspect of internal shifts is the cultivation of perspective. God uses internal change to give you a new way of seeing circumstances, people, and even yourself. Struggles often distort perception, causing despair or a sense of inadequacy. When God works internally, He restores vision, enabling you to interpret situations through His wisdom rather than your limited understanding. This renewed perspective allows you to recognize opportunities, respond with grace, and embrace His solutions instead of relying on your own methods. By realigning your heart and mind, God ensures that the breakthrough you experience externally is accompanied by the discernment to sustain it. Internal transformation also produces spiritual strength that cannot be shaken by temporary setbacks. When God first works within, you develop resilience, patience, and faith that remain firm even when challenges appear. Your external circumstances may continue to test you briefly, but the internal shift guarantees that you no longer respond in fear, despair, or frustration. Instead, you operate from a place of divine stability, understanding that God is orchestrating every element of your life and that His plan is greater than any temporary difficulty. Finally, understanding that divine shifts begin internally fosters gratitude and humility. Believers learn to appreciate the invisible work of the Spirit, recognizing that the true breakthrough is not simply in circumstances, but in the heart's transformation. This awareness prepares you to receive God's blessings with wisdom, to steward new opportunities faithfully, and to maintain a strong relationship with Him as the foundation for future victories. The internal shift ensures that when external change arrives, it produces lasting impact, spiritual maturity, and a testimony that glorifies God rather than merely celebrating temporary relief. God's timing is perfect, often arriving quietly but carrying the weight to change everything, and this truth reminds believers that patience is not merely waiting but trusting in His sovereign schedule. Many Christians feel frustrated when breakthrough seems delayed or circumstances remain challenging, yet God operates beyond human calendars, orchestrating events with precision and divine insight. What appears to be silence or delay is actually preparation, a divine alignment of people, situations, and spiritual forces to ensure that when the shift occurs, it is complete, lasting, and fully effective. Understanding this principle encourages believers to remain faithful, persistent, and expectant, knowing that God's timing, though unseen, is always purposeful and perfect. The quiet nature of God's timing also teaches humility. While the world measures success and progress by visible movement, God often works behind the scenes, orchestrating outcomes in ways that are imperceptible at first. Many breakthroughs in Scripture were preceded by long seasons of seeming inactivity or waiting, yet these periods were never wasted. They were seasons of preparation, refinement, and spiritual growth. God's timing is strategic. He is not hasty but deliberate, ensuring that every element aligns according to His wisdom. Believers are invited to trust this invisible work, to maintain faith when nothing seems to be changing, and to recognize that delay is not denial, but a sign that God is meticulously arranging the pieces for maximum impact. Another essential aspect of divine timing is that it protects and positions the believer. Often, God delays answers or interventions because the person is not yet ready to receive what He has prepared. Premature breakthroughs can be wasted or misused, but when God acts at the appointed time, the blessing, opportunity, or victory arrives in perfect alignment with the individual's spiritual readiness and life circumstances. This ensures that every success is sustained, every gift is stewarded wisely, and every victory glorifies Him. Understanding God's timing helps believers release impatience, trust the process, and remain confident that the right moment will come, and it will come in full measure according to His plan. Divine timing also teaches the value of faith in unseen realities. God often calls His children to move forward, serve, or make decisions without immediate visible evidence of breakthrough. Trusting His timing requires believing that what is promised is already prepared, even if it is not yet manifested. Faith bridges the gap between the promise and the fulfillment, allowing the believer to act in obedience, remain steadfast in prayer, and maintain hope while waiting. This faith strengthens character, deepens intimacy with God, and builds spiritual resilience, preparing the believer to handle the fullness of the blessing when it arrives. The quiet arrival of God's timing also carries a transformative effect on the believer's perspective. It teaches reliance on Him rather than on human understanding or control. Patience becomes an active virtue, hope becomes anchored in His word rather than circumstances, and trust becomes the foundation of daily life. Believers learn that timing is not random but purposeful, and that each delay, pause, or season of waiting serves a higher purpose that aligns with God's eternal plan. This insight fosters spiritual maturity, perseverance, and a deep sense of peace even amidst uncertainty. Finally, recognizing the significance of God's timing ensures that when His intervention occurs, it brings complete and lasting change. The moment may be quiet, unannounced, or unexpected, yet it is powerful enough to shift circumstances, redirect paths, and bring victory. Those who understand and embrace His timing are not merely relieved from struggle, but are positioned to walk in favor, wisdom, and divine alignment. They experience a demonstration of God's faithfulness that exceeds expectation and glorifies Him in every visible and invisible aspect of life, reinforcing the truth that patience in waiting is itself a pathway to extraordinary blessing. Receiving a new season from God requires letting go of old patterns, and this truth reminds every believer that progress in the Spirit is impossible while clinging to what God has already released you from. Many Christians remain in struggle, not because God has withheld blessing, but because they are holding on to fear, doubt, resentment, or habits that no longer serve his purpose. The act of letting go is not a suggestion but a spiritual requirement, a necessary step to fully embrace the freedom, joy, and victory that God has prepared. When God calls you into a season of no more struggle, He is inviting you to surrender the old ways of thinking, the familiar but limiting strategies, and the patterns of self-reliance that kept you exhausted and defeated. Letting go requires courage, for it involves stepping into the unknown and trusting God's wisdom over personal experience. It may be painful to release control over circumstances, relationships, or ambitions that seemed secure, yet God's promise is that what He provides surpasses what is left behind. The familiar, even if burdensome, often feels safer than the new, but faith demands risk and trust. The believer, who embraces God's instruction to release old patterns, finds that freedom, peace, and supernatural guidance replace the weight of uncertainty. God does not ask you to abandon wisdom or responsibility, but to stop carrying what He has already carried for you, to stop wrestling with burdens He has already resolved, and to step into His plans with obedience and expectation. Old patterns can take many forms, from unproductive thought habits to toxic relationships, from fear-driven decisions to repeated cycles of self-sabotage. God often calls His children to release not only visible obstacles, but also invisible strongholds within the mind and heart. Pride, anger, unforgiveness, and anxiety are spiritual weights that hinder the flow of His blessing. Letting go means choosing to trust Him with these areas, relinquishing control, and allowing His Spirit to fill the space with wisdom, clarity, and divine guidance. Every act of release opens a door for God to move in ways previously blocked, creating an atmosphere where miracles, favor, and breakthroughs can flourish. Letting go also aligns with obedience and humility. The believer who recognizes that God's ways are higher than human understanding is willing to surrender personal agendas, timing, and expectations. This surrender is not passive resignation, but active cooperation with God's Spirit. By letting go, the believer participates in divine partnership, allowing God to orchestrate life in alignment with His purpose. It is through this process that faith matures, spiritual discernment deepens, and the heart becomes sensitive to God's direction. Each release creates space for divine inflow, and every relinquished burden allows God to replace what is lost with something greater, stronger, and eternal. Moreover, letting go prepares the believer for transformation. Holding on to old patterns keeps you trapped in cycles of struggle, but releasing them invites growth, creativity, and new opportunities. God's promise of no more struggle cannot be fully realized without internal cooperation, and this cooperation requires trust, patience, and commitment to His Word. The process is both spiritual and practical, involving reflection, prayer, and decisive action. As you release the past, God positions you for breakthroughs, healing, and the fulfillment of promises that were once delayed or inaccessible. Understanding the necessity of letting go fosters gratitude and peace. The believer who actively releases old patterns experiences relief from the weight of unproductive struggle and gains a renewed sense of purpose, confidence, and readiness for God's next move. God's call to release is not punishment but provision, not loss but preparation. By stepping into this principle, you position yourself to receive the fullness of His blessing, walk in supernatural favor, and enter a season where struggle is replaced with strength, burden with peace, and uncertainty with divine clarity. A struggle-free season does not mean a life without battles, but a life filled with victory. And this truth reminds believers that God's deliverance is measured not by the absence of conflict, but by the presence of His power in every challenge. Many Christians misunderstand the promise of no more struggle to mean complete ease or uninterrupted comfort. Yet God's intention is not to remove challenges entirely, but to give you the ability to overcome them through His strength. When He declares that the season of struggle has ended, it is a declaration that the dynamics of life will no longer overwhelm you, that the power of your faith and the guidance of His Spirit will ensure victory where defeat once seemed inevitable, and that the enemy's efforts to weaken, delay, or discourage you will be met with divine intervention. This keynote emphasizes that God's victory is active, not passive. He does not simply remove obstacles, He equips you to face them with wisdom, courage, and supernatural provision. The battles you encounter may still appear, but the outcome is now guaranteed to serve His purposes rather than drain your strength. God transforms every challenge into a platform for testimony, every conflict into an opportunity for growth, and every trial into a stepping stone toward blessing. Understanding this principle allows believers to face difficulties without fear, to persevere without despair, and to walk confidently knowing that what once brought exhaustion and defeat now produces triumph and revelation. The principle of victory in struggle-free seasons also teaches dependence on God. Many believers attempt to fight spiritual, emotional, or practical battles alone, relying on personal strength or human solutions. God's promise to end struggle is a call to partnership with Him, acknowledging that His wisdom and power are far greater than any human effort. Victory is not achieved by might or skill, but by alignment with His will and obedience to His Spirit. As you surrender control and rely on God's power, you discover that the same circumstances that once caused anxiety or confusion now become arenas where His glory is revealed and His favor is evident. God also uses struggle-free seasons to cultivate confidence and faith. When you experience the shift from being overwhelmed to being victorious, your trust in Him deepens, your courage increases, and your perspective changes. You begin to recognize that struggle was never the ultimate authority over your life. It was merely a temporary stage designed to demonstrate God's faithfulness. Each battle faced with divine assistance strengthens your testimony, inspires those around you, and encourages perseverance in others who are still in their season of difficulty. The believer learns that victory is not the absence of opposition, but the ability to walk through it with God's guidance, emerging stronger, wiser, and more resilient. This keynote also emphasizes that a struggle-free season involves intentional stewardship. When God grants victory over previous patterns of hardship, He entrusts you with the responsibility to maintain faith, walk in wisdom, and operate in gratitude. The victories you receive are opportunities to glorify Him, to serve others, and to demonstrate the reality of His power in practical ways. A life marked by divine victory becomes a beacon of hope, showing that struggles are not permanent, that God is faithful, and that His timing and intervention are perfect. Finally, understanding that a struggle-free season does not remove all trials equips believers to face life realistically yet spiritually empowered. The shift is not in the challenges themselves, but in the presence, power, and perspective of God working through you. The enemy may attempt to intimidate or delay, circumstances may still test patience, and difficulties may appear unexpectedly. Yet the promise of victory ensures that none of these can dictate the outcome. God transforms the very fabric of your experience, turning battles into triumphs, weakness into strength, and former defeats into lasting testimonies that glorify Him and confirm His faithfulness in every aspect of your life. Beloved, as we come to the close of this message, let us reflect on the profound truth that God is calling each of us into a season where struggle no longer defines our lives. Every keynote we have explored reminds us that God is intentional, sovereign, and deeply aware of every detail of our journey. He does not allow struggle without purpose, and He does not end struggle without reason. Every trial you have endured, every moment of uncertainty, and every tear shed has been a part of a divine process designed to prepare you for victory, maturity, and deeper intimacy with Him. God's declaration of no more struggle is not simply words to comfort, it is a spiritual reality, a divine shift that invites you to align your heart, mind, and spirit with His plan and step into a life filled with His power, guidance, and blessing. As we have seen, God's promise requires trust, patience, and obedience. He first works internally, renewing our hearts and minds so that we are ready to receive the full measure of His blessing. He asks us to let go of fear, doubt, and old patterns that have kept us bound, and to release control, knowing that his wisdom far exceeds our own. He reminds us that struggle is not the ultimate authority, and that every challenge we face can become an opportunity for testimony, growth, and revelation. In every step, he teaches us that victory does not come from human strength, but from dependence on his Spirit, and that his timing, though often quiet, is perfect and unstoppable. We are called to walk boldly into this new season, carrying faith, gratitude, and perseverance. The struggles we once endured are not signs of failure but stepping stones to the abundant life God intends for us. Each moment of patience, each act of obedience, and each surrender of old burdens positions us to experience peace, supernatural strength, and victory. Our external circumstances may not always change immediately, but God's internal work guarantees that when the breakthrough comes, it will be lasting, transformative, and aligned with his eternal purposes. The promise of no more struggle is not merely a season of relief, it is a season of empowerment, preparation, and divine fulfillment. As we embrace this truth, let us also remember the importance of sharing our testimonies, encouraging one another, and walking as witnesses of God's faithfulness. Our lives are meant to reflect his glory, and the victories he grants us become living proofs of his power and love. May we step forward with courage, knowing that the same God who has brought us through past struggles is the one who now carries us into triumph. Finally, I want to express my deepest gratitude to each of you for your attentive hearts and willingness to receive God's word today. Thank you for being present, for opening your spirit to his guidance, and for allowing these truths to take root in your lives. May you leave this place strengthened, encouraged, and filled with hope, knowing that the season of struggle has ended and that a new chapter of victory, peace, and divine favor awaits. May God bless you abundantly, keep you steadfast in faith, and surround you with his grace as you step boldly into the fullness of his promises. Thank you, and may his peace guide you always.